What is up, space pirates? This is your Admiral, the chronically charismatic Dr. Disaster, and on a long enough timeline, the mainstream media will be forced to admit facts that are inconvenient for the narratives that they've tried to spin.
Oh, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain!
Here is the latest example. For a while, we have been pointing out that the sales for Assassin's Creed Shadows were sluggish, and that the game was going to lose Ubisoft a shitload of money. The total budget for Shadows is estimated to be around $350 to $400 million, which, if you break down the math, means that they would need to sell something in the neighborhood of 7 to 8 million copies just to make their money back. And yet, after over half a year on the market, estimates are that the game is sitting at somewhere around 4 million total sales, meaning there was virtually no way that Ubisoft was ever going to recoup all of its money, which means that the people refusing to buy it for being a woke turd did indeed cause a huge dent in the game's sales. But yeah, the media ran with this story here, where Ubisoft announced that they hit 3 million total players, not sales mind you, but players, for Assassin's Creed Shadows in about a week, ignoring the fact that this would count people who refunded the game on Steam after an hour or so, or people who got free game codes, things like that. But now that they have shifted their energies away, the mainstream media has shifted their energies away from protecting Assassin's Creed Shadows to now protecting Ghost of Yotei. Now they are prepared to admit, with this shift in their energies, at least tacitly, they are admitting that the player count narrative was bullshit, as they push this narrative here, that Ghost of Yotei, after 3 weeks, has outpaced the numbers that Assassin's Creed Shadows did in 7 months.
I need you to trust me. One last time.
The news is that Alinea Analytics, a data analytics firm who monitors the sales of video games, they have just put out more hard sales data for Ghost of Yotei. And what is really interesting is that most of the media is actually ignoring this. They choose to use this quote here from Matt Piscatella over at Circana, where he said that the game was doing great, but he didn't provide any hard numbers. That is the info that they want to run with, and the reason for that is fairly self-evident.
You're a coward.
Well, the evidence does support that.
Alright, me hearties, make sure that you hit the like button on this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I've had a lot of people tell me that they have been unwillingly unsubscribed to the channel, so make sure you check on that, and also, give me a follow over on X, where my handle is Dr. Disaster 1. And if you feel like supporting the channel and helping keep the lights on, consider becoming a member for as little as $5 per month. Anyways, let's take a look at what the people at Alinea Analytics are saying about the numbers for Ghost of Yotei. In order to get a full understanding of the narrative that they are trying to spin, we're going to read the Substack article that they put out. It says here, after 7 months on the market, Assassin's Creed Shadows has sold less on PS5, 2.4 million, than Ghost of Yotei did, 2.5 million, in under 3 weeks, showing that this samurai showdown is just about settled. One thing that you should note is that in order to create this spin that Yotei is a huge success, they are comparing this game to Assassin's Creed Shadows, which they also told us was a huge hit, but they are cherry-picking a portion of the data instead of looking at all of the data. They are only looking at the PS5 sales for Assassin's Creed Shadows, Well, no shit that a AAA PlayStation exclusive sold better on that one particular console than another game which was available on Steam and Xbox as well. The question we should be asking here is why in the hell are they not comparing Yotei to Ghost of Tsushima? But we will cover why they aren't in just a minute here. The important thing is to understand how they are framing things and why. Look at the headline of this Substack article. That first part of it was what they want people to take from the article. It proudly points out that Ghost of Yotei outsold Assassin's Creed Shadows. The average normie will see this headline, process that portion of the information, and they will ignore the rest. Meanwhile, the qualifier that they are only counting PS5 sales is in a subordinate position in the headline. A more honest and responsible way to frame this would be to say that Yotei outsold Assassin's Creed Shadows, but only on the PS5. Anyhow, let's read on. The header here reminds us that Alinea Analytics still wants to be friends with Ubisoft as well. After all, there's a reason that Alinea is given access to all this sales data in the first place, because they play nice with all of these major studios. But right now, their mission is to spin things for Yotei. So anyhow, it says here, across all platforms, Shadows performed well in isolation, selling just over 4.3 million copies as per our estimates, with 56% on PS5, 26% on Xbox, and 18% on Steam. However, context matters here. Ubisoft needed a breakout hit to reinvigorate its core franchise. Shadows has instead had a lukewarm sales performance shortly after Ubisoft announced it's putting all its eggs in the Assassin's Creed and Far Cry shaped baskets. Well, I will say this, Alinea is right about one thing. Context does matter. 4.3 million is just a bit over half of what the game has needed to sell in order to start turning a profit. It is roughly what we have been saying that the game was at in terms of sales numbers, but only now will these people admit it, and only in defense of Yotei. But the thing is that I promise you that a sales data firm like this will absolutely know the economics of a huge release like Assassin's Creed Shadows, and yet they consistently omit information like the fact that they need to sell a whole lot more copies in order to break even. They omit that because they do not want to be honest about the fact that Ubisoft was counting on more than 8 million people buying this game by now. They were counting on it because Assassin's Creed Shadows, of course, was the first Assassin's Creed game set in Japan, and everyone expected that it was going to sell like crazy. But it didn't. And the fact that they didn't talk about this, the fact that they want to omit this sort of thing from their analysis, it speaks volumes about how many of us, how many people were turned off by the progressive shit that was plugged into Assassin's Creed Shadows. They don't want to admit that we have any sway over the industry. Meanwhile, they finally get to the sales numbers for Ghost of Yotei in this article. They say here that it has sold 2.5 million copies in 3 weeks, and now we have to circle back around to that question I asked a minute or so ago. Why are they not comparing Yotei to Ghost of Tsushima? Why do they not want to do this? Well, here's the reason why. Sony put out this tweet back in 2020, right after the release of Tsushima, announcing that the game had sold 2.4 million copies in 3 days, and Yotei has sold about the same, 2.5 million, but they took 3 weeks to sell roughly that same amount. And yet, if you look at what Matt Piscatella was saying over at Circana earlier this week, he was trying to tell us that sales between Yotei and Tsushima were basically flat, and the media ran with that. Well, that says an awful lot about the mentality of these jackasses, doesn't it? Circana puts out a nebulous claim where the word basically is doing a lot of heavy lifting, but it fits their preferred narrative, so they treat it like it's gospel. Meanwhile, Alinea puts out hard numbers, and all you hear from these same people is crickets, not a damn thing. Even though Alinea is clearly trying to spin the numbers in order to make Yotei look better, almost nobody is covering these figures, and the reason is fairly apparent. It doesn't look very good for Ghost of Yotei. It doesn't back up the Circana claim that sales compared to Tsushima were basically flat. But what it does do is vindicate the numbers that Jay Viper has been estimating for the game. His methods of tracking have been fairly spot on, with the likes of Assassin's Creed Shadows and Dragon Age the Veilguard. His numbers were basically spot on in the past, and they have been proven correct with Yotei as well. Here he is estimating that right after the launch weekend, Yotei was sitting at somewhere between 1.4 to 1.7 million copies sold. And then here is Alinea Analytics from a few weeks ago confirming that the game did hit around 1.6 million units after its launch. And then here is Jay from about a week ago projecting that the game would hit about 2.5 million units sold in a month. He has been saying that the game's numbers have flatlined, and he appears to be fairly correct. Alinea confirms Yotei hit that 2.5 million copies sold about a week earlier than he expected, but still, that is pretty spot on. Clearly this game is lagging behind Tsushima. And while Yotei has certainly already hit profitability on the game due to its modest budget, you may remember that I estimated that it would need to sell somewhere around 2 to 2.5 million copies in order to break even, but while it is making money, it's clear that these same people who played Tsushima are not coming back for Yotei, and the question I have is, why not? Where did they go? Did they just evaporate? Most sequels to successful games outsell their predecessor by a fair margin, because word of mouth from the first game drives people to the second game. That is some powerful marketing right there. Yotei was always going to sell a few million copies at least and make its money back. That was never a question. But why are they not blowing up the sales charts right now? Most of the people who play the game say that from a technical perspective, the game is smoother than Tsushima. They say that it's superior to the first game from a purely gaming perspective. So where is everybody? Why is word of mouth not helping this game outsell the first game, leaving these analysts to compare it to Assassin's Creed Shadows in order to make it look like it's doing well? But I'm gonna leave it there. I want to know what you think. The media has blamed everything from COVID to the PS4 being more popular than the PS5 as to explaining why Yotei is lagging behind Tsushima. But what are your thoughts? Drop them into the comment section below and we will talk there. Thanks for watching me, Hearties. If you haven't already, your Admiral is inviting you to subscribe to the channel and become a part of the crew. Life as a space pirate may not be glamorous, but there's always plenty of booty.